Alright, today we're going to build this small stool slash table, whatever you want to use it for. A couple days ago, it was a boring old 2x6x8 stud. And this is the one we built a couple weeks ago. This was out of a 2x4x10. So I wanted to do a little bit of an improvement here. The difference in this video is you'll see that there's two of these. One was the prototype and the other one was the one I built on video. We only have one of these because you're going to see me go through the pains of prototyping on video and me doing the layout. And then I'm going to discuss all the things that I'm going to do differently after the build is done, because every time I prototype something, I find an improvement after the fact. All right, so having said that, let's get to it. All right, so here is our 2x6x8. I've done the layout on this side just so I make sure everything fit, but I'm going to show you how I do layout. So I'm going to flip the board over. And this is what I do before I, start to butcher up the board there, because when I make these videos, I kind of gotta, have the gimmick of making it all out of one board. So anyway, here we go. First things first, I'm gonna get rid of our factory edge there. This is what I use for all my layouts. So the first one we're gonna do is 17 inches. These are our legs. So I'm gonna go over 17 inches. Then I'm going to go over 1/8 of an inch for the blade curve. Might be a little bit tighter than that if you got a fine turf blade, but it's going to put you relatively in the right area. Okay, the next set of legs is another 17. Okay, that's all 4 legs because it's going to be cut into 2x3s. And then next one we're going to go over is going to be 9 inches. Doing another one at 9 inches. These are also going to be cut into 2x3s for the top skirts. Okay, and then we're going to do 14 inches. This is going to be for our top. And then another 14. I'll just draw the line on there when I'm done. And that gives us very little waste. So I didn't need to draw that little last notch on there for the curve because it's not part of the project. But force of habit. Okay, so these ones are going to be ripped down to 3 3/4, and then what's going to be left over is going to basically be a 2x2. A 2x2 and a 2x2, and we'll cut those to length later. Okay, so let's do some cross cuts and then we'll take it to the table saw. Okay, so right now my miter station is still kind of screwed up. Hopefully this will be the last time, but if you look here, my board is hitting the end of the bench. So I can't quite get to the end, so I'm going to cut it off here and then I'll go back and clean that up. Okay, now I'm going to set my stop block because I want all the legs to be identical. Now as you're going here, you might start to get a little bit off base with your lines that you made with your layout with the curve of the blade. Don't count on those. They're just a guideline. So when you come over and you line up this one, once again, doesn't have to be perfect as long as all 4 of them are the same. So now I'm going to create a stop block for this one. And by the time we got to the end of the board, we were off a little bit. But we know that these are all the same, so that's good. Okay, now we're going to take our 14-inch top pieces, and I'm going to move the blade over to 3 3/4. Okay, and now that's going to leave us with just about 1/8 of an inch bigger than a 2x2 in the one direction. So when we assemble it, we just have to make sure they're stacked the same way. We'll deal with that later. Okay, next one, we're going to move on. We're going to move the fence over to 2.5 because we're going to make 2x3s do. Okay, that is it for the table saw. Okay, so here's the breakdown. So these are made in 2x3s, so 1.5 by 2.5, and there's 4 of them at 17 inches. These are the tops. I ripped them down at 3 3/4, and they're 14 inches. And these guys are 2x3s, and they're 9 inches. And these are our basically 2x2s at 14 inches. We're going to cut these down later, so we'll just set them aside for now. I'm going to sand everything now. When we come back, we'll do the assembly. All right, we're back, and everything is sanded down to 120 grit. Don't need to go any more than that because of the finish I'm putting on it. And I have figured out what I want to do about this, so I'm going to cut 2 of these at 9 inches to match up with those ones. And just like that, they're cut. Okay, now I'm going to put some pocket hole screws. I'm going to take the 4 short 2x3s and I'm going to put the pocket holes on the ugly side of them. And I'm going to put one on the ugly side of the bottom of whatever I feel like those ones. Okay, when you're doing the short ones, make sure that you commit to either the long side or the short side because they all 3 have to be the same. Doesn't matter which way they go as long as all 3 of them are the same. So I'm going to make mine the longer dimension being up and down. So this is the 1.5 inches and that's the 1 5/8. So I'm going to commit to it that way. Okay, so I'm going to place these with the nicer side down and the nicer side out. I'm going to use a fence picket, which is 5/8 thick. You can use something that's 1/2 inch or 3/4. It doesn't really matter. I'm just giving it an offset. Okay, so now I'm going to place that in there like that. And then one of these guys is going to go down in there like that. We're going to put this board 4 inches up from the bottom. You can do 3, 4, whatever you want. But we're going to use 4 for this. Okay, we get everything in position. Now we just get our pocket hole screws. All right, now do it again. All right, so there's our 2 sides. Now we're going to fasten them together at the top. Okay, so the last step, I had to wait till now because with the offsets, I didn't know exactly what the measurement was going to be. So it's going to be 9.5. So I got a 1/4 inch offset apparently on each side. So remember, we're committing to the longer dimension being up and down, which is this way. So I'm just going to mark this as the bottom where the pocket hole screws are going to go. Anyway, just like that. And now it's got the 9.5 inches and it's got pocket holes in it. Okay, so I'm just going to mark the middle here. It's a 9-inch board, so it's 4.5. 4.5. We're not going to over stress this as long as it's relatively centered, we're fine. Okay, and now the frame is done. One thing I want to make note of here is wherever you have the double screws, if you don't put glue in, it's no big deal. Where you have the single screws, the main reason to put the glue in there is just to keep it from turning because end grain does not stick very well. So the screw's going to take the load, but it's going to keep it from turning, right? Okay, so I'm going to wipe off all the glue and then I'm going to let it dry and I'm going to stain it, then we'll be back. All right, so here we have it all stained. I used dark walnut. And I'm going to put a finish on the lower part here to match the coffee table that I built last year. So I'm going to take the top 3 pieces off and I'm just going to seal them all the way around with polyacrylic. That way you don't get the moisture coming in and making them twist. So we're just going to set these aside and I'm going to put 2 coats on the top, sand it, and then put a final coat on. That's how that's going to be done. But anyway, here's where the difference is. So right here, this is glue residue. And you can see a little bit in the corners, a couple different places. That's what happens if you don't wipe the glue off really good before you stain. Now I knew the whole time that I was going to be putting this top coat on here, so I wasn't overly concerned about it, but that's why you want to make sure that you clean all the glue off as soon as possible. And if you can't get it all off, then sand it off. Otherwise, once again, it's going to be discolored like that. So, I'm a professional painter. I've been so for over 30 years, and this pains me greatly to show you how to paint like this. I'm going to put a really rustic farmhouse paint job on it. And that basically means a lot of stabbing and cross grain. We made sure we stained it dark walnut first. That way it would show through the paint. So just to kind of show you on more even surface. There's really no wrong way to do this. You just kind of want to fill it in the way you want it to look. And then afterwards you can always sand some off if you want to. So like I said, if you get a little bit too much on there, don't worry, you can always sand some of it off later, so can't really go too wrong with this. Okay, so we're ready to put this together. Quick note, after the camera was off and I started to finish up here, I got into my groove a little bit and I just made sure that the brush was nice and light, and I kind of wasn't necessarily going across the grain, but I was going kind of angularly across the grain. But like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's whatever you want. I just found that when I had the brush nice and thin, it was going on a lot nicer than kind of blobbing it on there. It had been like 10 months since I did the last one, so I kind of had to get into my groove. Anyway, so we're going to put the top on now. So I got the top pieces on there. I get them spaced out the way I want them. I put these clamps on these scrap pieces just to hold it so I can flip it over. The middle board's going to have to be fine-tuned as we go here because it's not super tight, but we'll adjust that after we get the two end boards on. Okay, so we're going to flip it over. Now this is where we have to be particular with our drilling the holes in. So I don't know. I'm doing this for the first time. This is a prototype, so I might change how I do it later, but right now I think I'm going to put the center board in just because it's the simplest. So I got it lined up. Let's see if I can actually get the drill in here. No. Okay, so I'm going to use this, and I want to go in. About there. This is a 3-inch deck screw, so we're only going to want to go down about right there. So you're going to have to measure this as you go. I can't tell you what the dimension is. Then just take a piece of painter's tape or electrical tape or whatever. Just put it across there so you don't go too deep. Now, of course, I'm going to have to do the same thing to put in the screws. Isn't that fun? Okay, if you can pre-drill the hole, it's probably good. I don't think I have a bit that's long enough, so I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to do it slowly. If it starts to strip, I'll back it out. Okay, after some playing around here, realizing that it wants to tilt as I push it, it'll make sense. So I'm counterbalancing it with a clamp on here. And then in order to keep the middle board in position while I drive the screws in, I'm going to put a clamp on to hold it into position, which makes sense, right? Okay, so it didn't go through. The depth is good. See if we can get this a little bit more refined here. But there we go. The first one's always the hardest one. Okay, I'm going to move the clamp over to the other side just so it doesn't want to pivot while I put the other one in. Okay, so in order to have to switch everything around, I'm going to put the rest of the screws in here. This is where it gets a little tricky. Whole idea of this is to keep the screws from showing through the top. It's much easier to put them through the top, obviously, than doing all of this. But we have pocket hole screws, which are going to be in about right there. So it gives us a little bit on the edge, but we need to keep it close to the edge here. Now we'll see if we miss those pocket screws. If not, we'll have to readjust. Okay, so that seemed to work. The other one there, and then we'll turn it around. Okay, now after doing the hard side there, figuring it out, now I know what I'm doing. Everything's held in place. The center can't really move because both are in there, so I'm just going to drill all 4 holes quite quickly. That's how it goes after you prototype. You get going much faster. Okay, so they're all on there, but we still got a couple more screws we got to put in. And now all this can go away. Everything's held in place. Now we can go back to the old-fashioned way of doing things without the angle piece. Okay, same thing. We got pocket holes near the end, so we're going to stay inside a little bit. Okay, I'm just going to take my other one to reference here. Get the piece of tape on there so I don't go too deep. Or you could just use that one, but whatever. Okay, so I'm going to take this, put it in here. I haven't mentioned it before. Make sure your clutch settings are not all the way, so you don't want to plow the screw right through the board. We got no screws coming through, so perfect. Now we just got to put the feet on the bottom. Okay, so after I was done, it was pointed out to me that if I had used my normal drill instead of this one, which is actually my brother's, my drill is much shorter than this one. So had I used this one, I wouldn't need to use the angle attachment. But you live and you learn. That's the fun of prototyping. I still would have had to use a short bit, but wouldn't have had to use this one. But yeah, inefficient when you're doing the prototype. Next one I build is going to go way faster because I figured all of this out. That's how it works. Let's put the feet in. Okay, so we're going to use a 5/16 bit, the same as we were using on the other one. And I got to go in far enough just to make sure that that whole bolt will go in. Okay, so we're going to go right dead center. Okay, those of you who watched videos before me doing this, you know that I use these on everything. Because that way, if it twists or the floor's uneven, you just level it off. And you don't have to worry about dissatisfied customers. Okay, here we go. Okay, so real quick, going over the finish. I used polyacrylic for the top where it was stained. And I just used some old house paint that was left over in the house when we bought it. Just some flat white. And it might be tinted, but I can't tell what color. Anyway, so found a little mistake afterwards. One of my screws went a little bit astray. We got no screws coming through. So I'm just going to back that out and change the angle on it and it'll be fine. All right, let's talk money a little bit here. So 2x6 is about, I don't know, $7, maybe in $7 and change, something like that. I think you'd easily get $75 for this. Thought you'd get $60 for this. Because I get people gripe about, oh, you're not going to get that. It's like, the price varies in different areas. If I was in Toronto, I'd get $150 for this. So take a chill pill, guy. If you're wanting to get into building or whatever, this is what you guys should be starting with. Go grab yourself a 2x4x10 and build this one. Even if you just sell it to get your money back, maybe make a couple dollars, and then move on to this one, and then we'll just keep going. And that's your education. It's the cheapest education you're ever going to get. Okay, so having prototyped it, what would I do different? First of all, I'm pretty sure I would have just cut these into regular 2x2s, so 1.5 by 1.5 inches. And then I would have had a little bit more on each of these. Maybe I would have made these into 2x2s. I'm going to do another one. It's going to have a laminated top, and I'll address some of that when we get into that video. You guys leave in the comments which one you prefer. So please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you if you have, and help us to get this up to 7K. So we're going to link to this one here in the box up there, and we're going to put it in the box down there, the link to our DIY channel, which is just getting started. It's not super exciting yet, but it's basically I'm going to show you how to do everything around your house without having to hire anybody, because I don't like giving other people money. I want them to give it to me. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.